impacts that Zambia's debt will have on the implementation of the 7th National Development Plan?
Right. So we are at a place where the country is actually trying to accelerate the implementation of the 7th National Development Plan, and the current debt situation does not help much, obviously, because there are austerity measures that have been put in place by government. And then these measures hinge on halting some of the projects, and these are development projects, maybe, in line with infrastructure development, and also purchasing of medicinal or pharmaceutical equipment. And we have seen that as PMRC, these measures will, in the long run, help government and in the long run cause sustainable debt servicing, and thereby affecting the whole value chain of sustainable development. But then, speaking of now, as at now, the liquidity dynamics that the country is facing, and speaking into what the head of state has appealed to Turkey in order to restructure debt. Debt is not being accumulated more by restructuring. I think this is what the general public and ourselves as a people need to understand, that restructuring debt or refinancing or looking at other models of repayments does not mean that we are accumulating more debt. Yes, there comes in an issue of course, economics will argue that there are cost implications, maybe due to maybe interest rates that will accrue from engaging another company or a foreign country. Obviously, there's what is called a term sheet. Before getting into an agreement, there are terms of references, and the government has enough technocrats to argue out a good plan, especially that we are backed by the Zambia Plus, which provides a clear framework on what we should enter into in terms of negotiating on the vices and the positives whenever we want to go into maybe an agreement of sourcing funds from across borders. Now, having said that, there are also opportunities within the country to source funds that can help refinance the debt. Right now, yes, the debt is quite huge because it goes beyond domestic debt. And looking at the Eurobond, measures that have been put in place, Zambia will get out of it. And we're also looking at the fact that there are state-owned enterprises that have come in giving back to the country through the Industrial Development Corporation, which announced so much dividends for the first time. There's a very big, huge an increase in the dividends that have been brought by state-owned enterprises and parastatals alike. And we saw also, for example, ZCCM Investment Holdings render in about 81 million kwacha, for the past 1 year. So this is ZCCM alone. So you can imagine how much monies from other parastatals that will accrue from putting it together. And obviously ZRA is broadening its tax base, and we hope that using electronic devices and electronic systems we can get more money, and especially that we are going to be as a country monitoring closely the operations of mines and with relation to profits and giving back what is due to the country, and thereby protecting the economy. We are not very much in danger. Our inflation rate has remained stable for the past few years. We're currently at 7.4%. Our GDP growth also has been stable in the past few years, and there's a rise actually to about 4+%. So you can imagine that it is actually an issue of liquidity. The economy is growing. There's tremendous growth compared to the other years that the country or the economy has been stagnant. So coming back to the issue of debt, really, it's just finding ways of mitigating the debt implications, and furthermore engaging on bilateral basis the countries that are actually on the other end. We are friends with China, which is holding the bulk of our debt. We are friends with other countries as well. So these mutual bilateral agreements or friendships or relationships should be able to yield at least positive gestures that will not so much adversely affect our economy moving forward.
All right. So, do you think government requesting Turkey to refinance some of its debt is the best model for Zambia?
At the moment, because what the head of state was doing is actually to lead from the front lines. If he doesn't chip in, then who will? If you and I, as the general citizenry, do not take responsibility to actually talk about in different forums, given for us to talk about the debt situation and how there could be even possibilities of debt relief other than just refinancing, then who will? So collectively as a people, we are responsible to make sure that we find best models or best avenues of servicing this debt. Restructuring the debt right now through a refinancing is another way, because that way that is obviously people had to sit down, technocrats had to sit down to see how we can go about this. So it is another way while we accumulate domestic resources that could actually have potential of refinancing in the long run.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.